Good morning, everyone. Welcome to PAX South. Thanks for choosing to spend your morning with us. We're going to talk about Zelda for an hour.
Yeah, Zelda hype. All right, that's going to be pretty good. How many guys Zelda fans out there? Great. How many guys
How many of you guys are not Zelda fans out there?
Yeah. Do it. Great. Good to see you guys. Thanks for coming.
All right, so we're going to go through the history of music and Zelda. Almost 30 years, or more than 30 years, right? But let's start with some introductions, and I want everyone to tell me their favorite Zelda song. Let's start with you.
All right, my name is Peyton Garrett. I go by Emperor P on most places. I am the Twitch assistant at Zelda Universe. I make people feel old, and my favorite song is Stone Tower Temple.
That's a good one. I like that. Hey, everyone. My name's Abdallah. I do YouTube videos, Nintendo daily content. Some of you guys know me. Hey. My favorite song is Song of Storms, but here's the thing, like we all have to sing it together though. You guys down for that? Or at least hum it. Yeah? Okay, 3, 2, no, 1. No. Na 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 na. Okay, that was good. Good job. Round of applause. You guys did great. All right, excellent work.
I'm Amanda Van Heil. I host Zelda News each week. I'm also on the Twitch channel. My favorite Zelda song, I have two, it's a tie, it's Gerudo Valley and Clocktown.
Yeah.
My name is Alex. I am social media director and manager. I also make content for the channel. I mostly do voice acting projects on Zelda, like we voice the characters and all that stuff. I also make some music as well. Mostly as I write lyrics for some Zelda songs. My favorite Zelda song is the Majora boss battle music from the Wind Waker, but I actually like the Hyrule Warriors version better.
There we go.
Hello, my name's Cody. I'm here visiting from Australia. I do some work. Yeah, thanks. I do work on social media and some other things. My favorite Zelda music, I'd have to say the entire Wind Waker soundtrack is phenomenal. The intro music, the music plays on the title screen, the music that plays during that little sequence at the start, Dragon Roost Island, just a lot of great songs in the Wind Waker.
And my name is Joshua Lindquist. I'm the content director of Zelda Universe. I oversee our publications. My favorite Zelda song is older than all of those others. My favorite is the end credits from A Link to the Past.
Okay.
And we're ZeldaUniverse.net. We've got Zelda coverage of everything all year round. So we're gonna get started with probably the latest Zelda music game, our spinoff here, Cadence of Hyrule. We're gonna talk about the newest, and then we'll cut back to the oldest. So who here's played Cadence of Hyrule?
Yeah, show of hands. That game was awesome. Who was your favorite character? Who did you guys play as? Yes? Anyone?
Anyone?
Link? Okay, hey, Link. Did you know Link's in the game?
Yeah, I knew Link.
Okay.
Link's my favorite too.
Yeah, Link is good.
What do y'all think of Cadence of Hyrule?
So what I like about Cadence of Hyrule is it's a throwback to the early days of Zelda, not just from the gameplay style, but from the music as well, because it brought back those catchy tunes, just more updated versions of them. So that's what I really liked about Cadence of Hyrule. It's challenging without it being like, I want to throw my controller challenging.
Yeah, and if you are finding it too difficult, there is a mode to turn off to make it so the enemies only move when you move. Makes it a lot easier for those who struggle with the gameplay. But yeah, my favorite thing about Cadence of Hyrule is probably that they got the fans involved. Actually, some of our friends ended up working on the music, Adriana and Jules, or Adrosaurus and Family Jules, who do work on YouTube and Twitch. And yeah, they just created some great music, and it's good to see fans getting involved.
Right, and even outside the games, there are a lot of fan music projects and albums like Overclock Remix, Theophany, and Rosen. We've got some of their albums to give away today from those, but 10 years ago, those kind of fan projects, no one ever thought it was going to happen. You wouldn't have thought that if you're just a Zelda fan, you were going to work on a Zelda game or have an officially licensed album to sell. So, we got any more comments on Cadence of Hyrule? It's great if you haven't played it. It's a lot of fun, even if you don't like rhythm games. Like they said, you can turn the rhythm off and just listen to the cool music and play a Zelda game where you hop around instead of walking.
And it also brings back like the musical instruments and concepts of having music as a part of the game as opposed to something just being played in the background like we got in Breath of the Wild. So that's another fun thing about Cadence of Hyrule is music is the primary function of the game.
It was also acted as kind of a gateway because no one had ever expected a game like Crypt of the Necrodancer to pair with The Legend of Zelda and create an official Zelda game of this caliber.
Right, I mean, it's an indie project, essentially. So who knows what this opens the door for more indie crossovers with Zelda in the future. Well, let's go ahead and turn the clock backward and start at the beginning. We're going to start with NES.
So here began their Zelda journey in the NES days. Anybody?
Totally. That game was so hard. There was no game FAQs. There were no guides on that. Oh my gosh, I remember. I had to put that game down hard when I was a kid.
So you all agree these games have some memorable music? Even Zelda 2?
Zelda 2 has one of my favorite songs. I love the Palace theme.
Zelda 2 fans. Hold on, I gotta look really hard. I gotta look really hard. Oh wait.
You don't have to look very hard. I'm right here.
He's right here.
So something interesting about the older Zelda games is they managed to make these like unforgettable sounds or songs with very limited hardware. It's a little different nowadays. Even a lot of the songs are maybe less catchy. You all agree?
No.
Well, the thing is with those limitations made the songs more simple, and simple songs tend to be more catchy. I mean, when you get a song stuck in your head, you're not going to get an elaborate concerto stuck in your head. You're going to get the chorus of a song that just keeps going on, and that's what worked so well with the early days of Zelda, and it was something that was repetitive and that you could listen to on end, and it was those limitations that actually helped boost the music up and make it so memorable.
Something that I do think is a little bit interesting about Zelda 2 in particular, but also the original, is that a lot of the songs really they seemed like they were almost forgotten until like the N64 era, maybe even later. Like the original dungeon theme from Zelda, it had a little cameo in Majora's Mask, but you didn't see it repeated like the songs from A Link to the Past ended up being. So let's kind of take one step forward. Who started their Zelda playing Super Nintendo, Game Boy? Who thinks A Link to the Past is the best Zelda game?
That's a good one.
So we were talking about songs being catchier, and I definitely grew up in this era, and so I get A Link to the Past and Link's Awakening music. It's in my head permanently, and I agree that the newer stuff doesn't get stuck in my head near as often. The other thing that's it started in the NES era, but it really picked up with A Link to the Past and definitely Link's Awakening was Link playing an instrument. So we had a little whistle in the original, but then you got a flute, which is actually an ocarina, in A Link to the Past, and I guess they called it a flute again in Link's Awakening.
And in Link's Awakening, I mean, it was all about picking up musical instruments, so music played the primary role again. It was such an integral tool to the game.
And that carried forward into the next era of N64, which we'll get to in a moment. But yeah, like Link's playing songs in Link's Awakening, and you learn different songs that you take with you, even if you're not physically having to push all the buttons like you do later. You have to go learn different songs to solve different puzzles, and it just became a core part of the series for a long time. We got anything else on?
Well, also that music, it really helped you keep rhythm with the game, even if it's not a rhythm game. Those early platformers and side-scrollers and all that, or top-down games, that combat is still very much rhythm-based. You have to kind of memorize the patterns and everything, and just having that music, to me, it's a lot harder to not have the music playing, because it's harder to keep time with what's happening. I've got, extensive piano training and vocal training, so I keep track of the timing and everything, and that's what helps me. And so that was really prominent within the SNES era as well as the NES and a little bit in N64.
All right, so before we move on to the next era, we've got some trivia for you all to win some prizes. So first I'm going to give away this album by Rosen called Ballads of Hyrule. It's just a lot of popular songs kind of played as ballads. They'll take a mic around. Who can name this tune?
I saw him. I saw him.
That is from Link's Awakening, original Game Boy version. It's the tune that plays when you meet Mr. Right from SimCity, and you give him the picture of quote-unquote Christine, I believe that's her name is.
Oh,
That's
dang.
correct.
Very nice. Good job.
So our little picture there is not from the Game Boy version, but that is Mr. Wright in his remade version on the Switch last year. Who played the remake?
The remake was good. How many guys just were first timers into Link's Awakening from the remake, and you haven't played the Game Boy one? I was one of those too, and then immediately when I heard about it, I just wanted to download it on the Nintendo 3DS eShop to play the old one, because I didn't have a chance of playing it, and it was really awesome. I enjoyed it.
There are some games that just like the idea of that getting to be your first Zelda experience or first way of experiencing Link's Awakening is just so great. So it's such a beautiful remake. It's done so well. It brought everything to life, especially the music and just the animation. But especially the music is just so well orchestrated. So it's just, I always get so happy when I see people that get to play this one for the first time.
All right, let's move on to our next era. Mike? Huh?
So who had the N64 era as their first Zelda era? That was me. I was late to the game, so I didn't start playing it until N64.
Okay, so here's the big question. We need one volunteer
Or more.
to do the Darunia dance. Okay, or more. You guys can come on up.
There's a Mario in the middle section.
All right,
and
come on up.
shot
Let's
up,
do it.
and it went straight back.
Let's go. It's a very interesting choreographed dance.
Yeah.
And you guys can all hum in the audience too, because you know the Song of the Forest.
Yeah,
you guys know
and
it.
We'll shout along with
he'll be
Darunia.
shouting on the screen so you can see.
All right, here we
Sing
go.
along with us. So you
Let's hype them up. Let's give them a round of applause. Let's go. There we go. Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay. That's good. All right. You guys are awesome. Best music. Another round of applause for those guys. That took a lot of courage. That was really fun.
You did not want to dance to that music.
Come on.
Hot.
Yeah.
What a hot beat.
Yeah, what a hot beat that was. All right, so that was fun. Good job.
So, Ocarina of Time, we mentioned a moment ago, Link's Awakening had music that you would learn, but you didn't actually play it. And in Ocarina of Time, you were given complete control over the instrument. Who all has all of those songs still memorized?
More or less.
Yeah,
Who all
who's
really confused by the 3DS remake when they changed all the songs?
who still remembers the Scarecrow's theme that they made for themselves? Got a few of you.
Down, 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 down.
That was mine.
Exactly it. I do remember that.
One of my favorite things to do during Ocarina of Time was just taking out the ocarina and just playing like other songs, not necessarily the songs they played in the game, but figuring them out and playing them by ear from like just other songs that I just like to listen to. So that would have been like stuff from late 90s. I would play like the Star Wars theme, or I would play like, stuff.
Oh, I remember looking up how to play the Simpsons theme. That was the coolest thing. Dun, 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 dun. Why is that in Zelda? I don't know. It was fun.
Why not?
I've seen people on Twitter like post like their clips of playing the ocarina, just like Guns N' Roses and My Chemical Romance. I'm like, how do you do this?
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize that the ocarina is it's a full-fledged instrument in the game. Even though you only really need 5 buttons to play the required songs, you can hit the triggers and change the pitch with the analog stick and play pretty much anything you want by ear, or you can look it up online and find sheet music.
I'm curious though, who actually knew the ocarina was a real instrument before Ocarina of Time?
No, it didn't.
Only
Yeah, I
reason
thought
I
it was
knew
called
about
the
it is
flute.
I think somebody played it on Doug on Nickelodeon, and that's the only reason I knew it existed.
Okay. Doug.
I'm pretty sure Ocarina of Time is like the game where like after I played it is like I asked Ocarina for Christmas from Santa.
I got one for Christmas.
I did too, but it was a potato ocarina.
Yeah, that's what I've got like the little ceramic one that they were selling in
and you've never
Power.
touched it since.
Yeah, the
Well, that's sitting on my
ocarina's
Zelda news set.
the ocarina is interesting. I think. Well, my favorite part is the way that at the beginning of the game, Saria gives you an ocarina as a gift and is like, remember me forever. He gets a better ocarina and throws the first one in a lake or something.
In the manga, Ganon destroys it.
Wow, well, that's great.
That was mean.
Isn't it still in your inventory till you pick up the blue one? So theoretically, he just tossed it in the moat.
But yeah, what's interesting about Ocarina of Time's music is that they actually started to introduce different themes per dungeon. In previous games, there had mostly just been, dungeon theme. But in Ocarina of Time, they started introducing more and more themes. They were less limited by space. They weren't trying to fit something into kilobytes. And so they were able to have a variety of different themes. And there were some really interesting ones in there. There's actually one that they had to change. Who knows about the one that they had to remove from Ocarina of Time? Yeah, so in the Fire Temple, what happened was that they had some clip of, they got some generic CD of royalty-free music, and they were like, this will be good. And yeah, it turns out it was religious, like Islamic chanting or something, and they said, whoops. And that got changed in a later version of the game.
So, any favorites? Favorite songs in Ocarina of Time?
Gerudo Valley.
Gerudo Valley.
Song of Storms, man. That guy's cranking on that thing all day, man. I love that. But Gerudo Valley, too. That's a good one.
I can't just not dance to it. I'm sorry.
No, you have to dance to it.
Yeah.
You can't just not dance to Gerudo Valley.
Yeah, the Lost Woods. I love the Lost Woods theme.
Ocarina also had my favorite, which happened to be, I guess, technically a music minigame, was the froggish tenors. I don't know what I love about that, but I love those frogs so much.
No, I pretty much am in the Gerudo Valley Club on this one.
Gerudo Valley Club. All right.
All right, so Majora's Mask, moving just a couple years down the road.
Yeah.
It is famous for reusing most of Ocarina of Time's assets, but actually did not reuse the music. And so it ended up with a very unique musical style that is very different, very almost like it's atmospheric and just makes you kind of feel like you're there.
Majora's Mask is primarily a character study in gaming, and
Look at the moon.
that is terrifying.
It's watching you.
Thanks, I hate it.
It's okay, as long as we turn it off in 5 minutes, we'll be fine.
But with that character study, oh gosh, just that moon, oh god. Yeah, with that moon, it needs a moon. Oh god, I keep staring at it, sorry. With that character study of a game, it needs a different kind of music, which is why it is like that atmospheric style to represent the different characters, to represent what is going on. One thing I always love to do is analyze the Clocktown theme. So with Clocktown, they could easily have just done the same thing and just sped it up each time, but there's more to it. So day one, Clocktown theme, super happy, everybody's walking around having a great time. Moon may be up there, but it's easy to pretend it's not there. So everybody, it's basically representing the naivety of the town and not knowing what is about to happen, whether it's willful ignorance or just genuinely just have no clue. But it's still, that town has that optimism that they are going to hold on to. So then you get to day two, that sound is still there, you can still hear the theme very well, you could easily tune out the weird sounds to it, but that's when you start to recognize something's wrong. But the town still has that optimism, they're still gonna hold on to their identity and who they are. And then finally when you get to day three, that's when everything just starts to really break loose. The sound still has that integral theme. Sure, it is sped up, and it's the little bit of a key change there, and it sounds very distorted, but it's still there. And that represents how they still stayed who they were. Like, you've got the two sisters who cared for each other even until the moon came crashing down. You have Andrew and Cafe who greeted the morning together. And that's what I thought was just so fascinating about that theme, is just those little details to it, how it really captured just the essence of the town.
Yeah, Majora's Mask is a fascinating game. It's coming up on its 20th anniversary later this year, April, I believe.
April in Japan.
April in Japan, and so yeah, that's going to be good. We're definitely looking forward to that over at Zelda Universe. I think one fun thing about the instruments in Majora's Mask is, I mean, I imagine everyone else was as surprised as I was when I tried to play the ocarina, and the Deku Link pulled out bongo drums or something.
Trumpets.
Trumpets? Yeah. Oh no, bongo drums was the Goron. Yeah, and you had an electric guitar and everything, and it was really interesting. There was that one game one area where you went into the bar and you played all the instruments, and I thought that was really fun.
I just like how. I don't know why I'm saying this, but like I just love how depressing the music sounds. Just like I feel the mood in the music that way. It's just like it's got like a different tone and like beat compared to Ocarina of Time.
It's like the Empire Strikes Back of Zelda games.
Say so.
Are you saying it's the best one?
Well, I like Return of the Jedi best, so.
It's definitely one of the best.
I think the best music in the entirety of Majora's Mask is the Milk Bar theme.
Really? It's
Hands
pretty
down.
catchy.
I will go in the Milk Bar and just chill. It's the best. I remember that too.
All right, we're going to do our move on to our next trivia. I've got, this is an album called Hero of Time by Eric Buckles. It is arrangements of Ocarina of Time music. Who can name this tune?
Majora's Mask, the Stone Tower Temple.
That's it.
Dang, that was quick too. Like on the first beat. That was really good.
So, who started their Zelda journey in the 2000s?
Very few. Look at all these old people.
Who liked the Wind Waker right when they showed it for the first time?
I thought it was good. That cell shading was awesome.
So, it was a pretty good time to be a Zelda fan in the 2000s. There were a lot of Zelda games, even though some of them are maybe a little bit forgotten now. We had a Zelda game near every other year for a long time. And musical instruments remained a big part during this era, except for in the Four Swords games. Who's played Four Swords? Who played it with all the Game Boys hooked up? And of course, the Wind Waker is technically a baton, not a musical instrument. But the game
That put Link in charge of the music rather than taking on.
But who are you
taking on.
conducting?
You are
Makar and
conducting the wind.
And Makar and Medley.
Fair enough. So what do y'all think of the Wind Waker's music?
I love
Not
it.
as good as Twilight Princess, but still pretty good.
So an interesting thing they did with the music, but also just the sound design in the Wind Waker, was how it's all dynamic based around what you do, and this carried into Twilight Princess, but I think it's more profound in the Wind Waker. How when you're fighting, you get these different sound effects based on how the battle is going.
I like how they made it sound like a Western standoff.
Yeah, and like every time you attack, there's like a little different note. I think that was awesome.
The Wind Waker to me is the epitome of the catchy style of music in the Zelda series. I feel like after the Wind Waker, it started going more in the realm of ambient music. There's a lot of Wind Waker music that you can hum along to, but you know, once you get to Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild especially, it feels a lot more atmospheric type of music. But the Wind Waker was just on its own, just without the game, just fun to listen to.
I love the opening theme for Wind Waker, and I also love Earth God's Lyric and I can never remember the name of the Wind
God's Aria.
Wind God's Aria. I love those two because I love how you can put the two songs together and it creates a full piece. I think that's just the coolest. I still remember going to my piano teacher, explaining the whole thing to her, and her expression just being like, "So why didn't you practice this week?" I'm like, "Because I was playing this and analyzing the music in Zelda."
Priorities.
So something I think maybe was only apparent to a lot of people when when you see the intro to the Wind Waker is it started to look like the Zelda games were connected a little more, and there were enough games to start doing some throwbacks. Like Windfall Island is clearly Kakariko Village, and the theme song kind of invokes that.
Are you talking about the timeline?
Not today.
Yeah, if we might have an 8-hour panel at some point to discuss the timeline, but if they ever approve it.
So we got Wind Waker, had all the really catchy music, and I guess we've got one panelist who'll argue it remained catchy. But when we went into Twilight Princess, they started dabbling in orchestrated music for the first time, even though the orchestrated track didn't make it into the game.
Yeah, Twilight Princess definitely had a couple of years of Nintendo's most hype ever E3 trailers. It was definitely a moment where people standing up and cheering and really excited to see Zelda. Unfortunately, that orchestrated music didn't make it into the game, but soundtrack was still pretty good. I'm sure Peyton over there thinks it's great. Oh yeah, that made it.
It's in the
that
demo
particular
reel,
track
right?
made it into, I believe, the opening area, but the rest of the music in the game wasn't orchestrated.
That's when it started becoming a bit more cinematic, just in general, and the music really reflects that. And I mean, I love it, but it's once it starts becoming more ambient, what you gain in the complexity of it, you lose in the memorability of it.
I would disagree slightly. I don't think there's a lot of complexity to the music because it just really loops a lot of it. Like Faron Woods and especially Hyrule Field, it just keeps going and you can listen to it until eventually night falls and the music gets bad.
Here's this Hyrule Field he was referring to. Who likes the Minish Cap?
I love Minish Cap.
Minish Cap.
I love it.
So the Minish Cap didn't quite follow the music theme as strongly as the rest of the era. You do get a little ocarina, but it kind of was just a throwback to what the original Zeldas were, where it just kind of warped you around and you don't get to play it anymore. And then they went to the complete opposite extreme and made you actually physically play the instrument in Spirit Tracks.
Oh yeah, that was a
Amanda
nightmare.
think of the pan flute in Spirit Tracks.
Oh gosh. Okay, try playing that on a Wii U when you're left-handed, and so you're having to hold it like this. You end up with like spit all over like the microphone, trying to like see what you're doing. It was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, the main problem is, well, aside from looking foolish in public on the train blowing into your DS, the main problem is that if you're on a plane, for example, a bus, and there's ambient noise in the background, you have to be doing something much louder than it for it to pick it up. It was a fun idea for a gimmick, but maybe if there was an option to do it with buttons instead or something, because yeah, there were a few times it just didn't work.
Spirit Tracks is a perfect game with no flaws or issues.
Peyton, you and I are gonna have words later.
Yeah.
This is a generational gap here on the staff. There's a lot of the older Zelda fans looked at Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks and said, oh, you can't just go around on trains. It's all about adventure, it's all about exploration. But for other people, they really liked Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. So yeah, I think music-wise, there were some great themes. Lineback's theme stands out to me. Do we have that?
We do.
Yeah, I really
Lineback's
liked the
great
music
track.
in Spirit Tracks. It was just the gameplay.
Yeah, I think the main
difficult.
theme for Spirit Tracks is among the best tracks in the Zelda series. It's just tacked onto a game that no one wants to bother playing.
If you actually make it to the end, the final boss theme is a 3-part piece, and it is such a good build-up for honestly a pretty easy boss. But
So, we got another trivia question before we get into the modern era.
All right, let's just make sure that some of the people in the side rows are being seen as well. Let's
All
bring
right,
a few
so
hands
I've
up.
got a copy of an album called Zelda Cinematica by Sam Dillard. This is medleys from all of Zelda history. This is a very good album. Who can name this tune?
oh,
got someone over here that graded.
I saw a great shirt over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I see the. Yeah, her. Get there.
What is this music?
Twilight Princess Mallow Mart.
That's it.
Mallow Mart.
No. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Dala's never been to Mallow Mart.
There is a video of this on YouTube. I think it's like is it an hour or something like that? Or it's like a crazy long time of listening to
have
Mallow
several.
Mart. And I don't know. I listened to the whole thing one day. I don't know why.
I know there is a 12-hour one out there.
I don't think I've listened to the 12-hour one, but I think I listened to the one that was like a full hour.
So right after we passed 2010, we were celebrating the 25th anniversary and the release of Skyward Sword. Who started with Skyward Sword? Anyone?
Oh, there's someone over there.
Don't be scared of raising your hand. It's a good
raise
game.
your
Go for
hand.
it.
Go.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Got
matter.
like 3.
Do you still like Skyward Sword?
Skyward Sword. I swear, I played it nonstop when it came out, and my wrist hurt a lot with that Wii mode. Oh my god.
I enjoyed it, but my hands shake too much, so like trying to like hold it still when my hands were doing this.
So one thing that was interesting about the theme that you just heard, the Ballad of the Goddess, is that pretty quickly after hearing it in the trailer, some enterprising YouTuber somewhere discovered that if you play it backwards, there's actually a familiar tune. So, yeah, that's...
Who knew that before now?
That's some trivia right there. Good job.
Wow, not a lot of people.
So Skyward Sword was actually when they went to orchestrated music for the Zelda series for everything. And to go with it, they did a concert series called Symphony of the Goddesses.
Who here got to see Symphony of the Goddesses? Anybody? Oh, was it not amazing?
It was really good.
Any more we got to say on Skyward Sword, or should we move on to
So
everyone's new
Skyward Sword, the
favorite?
thing with Skyward Sword is it still included the musical instruments. It still had the goddess harp. I'm sorry, Cody, I didn't mean to talk over you.
The harp is not a good musical
Well,
instrument.
it wasn't
in
so
that game.
much of a great musical instrument, but it was still there. It still had music instruments as like being a
do
tool to
this.
further the game.
Yeah, look, honestly, it's up there for the worst musical instruments in terms of like meaningfully playing it. You just sort of go back and forth. Is that what people doing a harp? It must be an easy instrument.
I've seen people that are just do it really fast with no like rhythm or synchronization at all and still just get it. So
Well, they're really lucky.
But this one had some good music as well. I mean, Groose had a good theme. Groose was a great character. Groose should have his own spin-off series, honestly, but...
Who likes Groose?
I love Groose.
Groose for Smash.
He's
Anyone
the
have
guy
hair
from
like
Zelda. The Lumpy Pumpkin theme was a nice song too from Skyward Sword. It was like a nice, just atmospheric song.
And the symphony, I think, is interesting in the sense that a lot of the music that they managed to make into orchestral music was some pretty simple blips and bloops from, the NES and SNES days, which, it's catchy music, but you wouldn't necessarily expect, this will make a fantastic arrangement with an entire orchestra, but it's all really good. If you didn't get the chance to see it, there are CDs available. It's around the place. It's a very good soundtrack.
Yeah, there are definitely some clips on YouTube. You can see some of the tracks. Because it is pretty incredible how they turned those 8-bit songs into something a full orchestra could play and still be recognizable. And I mean, you kind of feel like you already knew the song that way, but even though it was never played that way, you just imagined it that way.
It's like all of a sudden you're experiencing the music and being part of it and being there and feeling like it's like alive and around you, as opposed to it just being just some little background bloops. And that's what I loved about the symphony so much.
they also have like these amazing cinematics that go on the screen. So while you're listening to the music, you're not really watching them conduct. You're kind of watching this almost show that's on the screen.
Has anyone played this game?
What is this?
Never played it.
A little-known Zelda title.
Was it anybody's first Zelda game?
Yeah, there we go.
That's so great.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Funny story about this being somebody's first Zelda game. My friend's son is 8 years old, and so his first game that was Zelda was Breath of the Wild. Then he went and tried out Twilight Princess, and after about 20 minutes of it, he just said, yeah, I just want to go back to the good Zelda game now. And I just realized how spoiled we totally got just playing Breath of the Wild, like any adventure game. Like I tried like Horizon Zero Dawn right after, which is a wonderful, wonderful game. But I got so spoiled with just being able to climb everything in Breath of the Wild that all of a sudden I'm going, what do you mean I can't climb that?
Yeah. If there's no Korok seeds, if there's no one yelling yahaha, is it really an adventure?
I think Amanda just killed me. Ow.
So does Yahaha count as music? Is that like the best track?
It's music to my ears whenever I hear it.
All 900 times.
Never. How many of you guys actually collected all the Korok?
All
Couple of
900.
you guys.
Oh,
Holy
we've got a
moly,
few
dang.
collectors
Sorry.
here.
Applause for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not have
I
to
apologize.
Yeah, and how many of you got that really great motorcycle that Link is riding? Yeah.
Yeah, that was
That's
awesome.
a good motorcycle.
So aside from the Hyrule Castle theme that played a moment ago, what other music was there in Breath of the Wild?
The boss music is some of the best boss music in the series, in my opinion. It's just really catchy and really good. But other than that, honestly, I don't think there's a whole lot of music other than atmospheric.
I really liked, was it the Molduga? Is that how you, the?
Molduga, yeah.
Molduga? Yeah, I really liked the music for that one too.
So I know one really memorable theme.
Oh my gosh. What's that over there? I think that out of all the music in Breath of the Wild, this is probably the only one that I remember because of how crazy scary it was.
I
You just
start
run.
screaming every time I hear it. Like, anytime I'm playing it, and as soon as I hear it, I just start screaming. I can't help it.
We have a video on our Twitch page of us playing Breath of the Wild, and Amanda's blindfolded, and the music, and we were leading her. The music just starts playing, and the entire room just starts screaming because we don't know what to do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's one other theme that's really memorable to me, and it's actually it's in a different style to other music. I believe the term is exegetic, but it means that the music is heard by the characters in the game more so than just and you're just wandering around the wilderness, and suddenly you hear this getting louder and louder.
It's like you hear it, you just get so excited because it leads you to where you need to go.
It leads
Because
you
as
to
soon
your
as hear it,
favorite
you're
third person.
like, oh, Cass is here. He's got to be here somewhere. And then that's where you start looking around. And it's a way of telling you where you need to go without holding your hand.
Here's a bad opinion. Cass isn't that cool.
Peyton, shut your mouth.
Leave.
Shut your mouth.
Leave. I said it was a bad opinion.
So something interesting is we're talking about Breath of the Wild having this music in the world, but it's actually not the first time Zelda did this. Ocarina of Time had this in the Lost Woods. That Saria was actually playing the song, and that was how you found your way through the forest, and everyone could hear it. I don't know how her ocarina was that loud, but everyone could hear it.
I think Guru Guru was also music that you heard out loud as well, right?
That's true. So do you think the Guardians, do you think that music was something that everybody heard out loud? Did they have speakers on them?
Yeah.
It was like their siren, like when a police officer's coming or whatever, it was their siren. Maybe that was it.
You clearly can't see the laser because you're running away from it.
Yeah.
So how else are you supposed to know?
If I was creating a death robot, I would put speakers on it. But yeah, Breath of the Wild has a bit of a mixed opinion on music, it seems like, in the community. Some people say, wow, it's fantastic, I love the atmosphere, and other people go, oh, I didn't have a soundtrack. It's just interesting to see, and that's what people feel about Breath of the Wild in general, it seems like. Some people go, wow, this is Zelda 1 all over again. This is, the real Zelda experience. And then other people who grew up on games like Twilight Princess, they felt like, well, no, the real Zelda experience is going through dungeons with, full dungeons with different characteristics and cool themes, and you get an item in the middle of the dungeon and you use it to defeat the boss, and then you never use it again, in the case of Twilight Princess. But, it's just sort of one of these things that split fans to an extent. I mean, how many of you would say the Breath of the Wild, you really loved the music in it?
I mean, I enjoyed it.
And how many of you were sort of meh on the music of Breath of the Wild? Yeah, so we've got a fair few either way. So
It wasn't so much an ultra memorable soundtrack. It was wonderful and it was beautiful and it did the job. The job was just to create an atmosphere, and that's what they were going to. That was great. But when your job is to create the atmosphere, you do lose the catchiness of the songs, because you have that ability to do so much with it that there's less that just gets repeated. But it still was just really good in the background. It's kind of like how when Red Dead Redemption 2 won Best Soundtrack, like you don't really think much about the music in it until you go back and play it after it won, and then you realize how much is really playing that really set the tone of the game. And that's what Breath of the Wild's music did.
I think Breath of the Wild also benefited from having 30 years of music to draw on, because even though it didn't make like these big catchy tunes that you heard all the time, if you walk into somewhere like Rito Village and you've played the Wind Waker, you will recognize that it's Dragon Roost Island, or that it at least has just enough of Dragon Roost Island in it for you to recognize it. And you can see that throughout the game. If you do start playing it for hundreds of hours, like I'm sure a lot of us have, you can start to notice places where they just hit little tracks. The original Legend of Zelda theme is in the game at night when you're riding on horseback for a long time. So it's just you have to be doing specific things, and you can trigger specific music or sound effects. But if you just are playing the game like maybe you would play any other Zelda game, you're gonna think it has no music.
Yeah, and I think, for me, I generally speaking, I do prefer catchier style of music to atmospheric music. Breath of the Wild I really liked because it really fit with the theme. Like, it makes sense when you're wandering the ruins of post-apocalypse that there's not going to be, a little flute going do-do-do-do-do. But, I do think, when I think back at my favorite game soundtracks of the last decade, games like Undertale stand out to me. Games that just went back to, like, we've got a bit more 8-bit sort of music, and it's a bit more catchy. But I do think Breath of the Wild is one that is good in its own way. I don't know if there was a Breath of the Wild sequel. What do the other panelists think? If there was a Breath of the Wild sequel, what kind of music would you prefer that it would have?
Creepy and more.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like there to be more themes. Like the long tracks that Breath of the Wild does have, like the Hyrule Castle theme, I think are just phenomenal. I think the Hyrule Castle theme is really one of the highlights of the entire series. But it really felt like on my initial playthrough that like it was the only song in the entire game. Until I went hunting down every Korok seed, I didn't start to notice all of the subtleties in it. So I'd like them to take a step back and bring back more of the plain, catchy themes.
I'd like to have just like a few of the really catchy songs, but the rest of it be atmospheric, just to kind of keep with that same theme going, but definitely have a few more really catchy, memorable ones.
I'm just thinking about Breath of the Wild too, sorry.
I think about that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious what they're going to do with that. Are they going to reuse a lot of the music? Are they going to do some new scores? Are they going to focus on more catchy tunes?
We just got over talking about how there was no music in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I know, but like, come on, there's got to be something. Honestly, like when I played through, just like a lot of you guys in the panel here, when I played through Breath of the Wild with a lot of you guys over here, I didn't really notice the music all that much. It was just like, this is just such an amazing game, and like, where do I have to go? Other than
you were too busy trying to climb that mountain while it was raining.
Right. Exactly. And no, it was just such an amazing game that I didn't honestly pay attention to like the atmospheric music. And if you were to say, hey, what's your favorite song of Breath of the Wild? I could probably only think of none besides the Guardian tune where you're about to get blown up until you learn how to do that shield parry, which is the coolest thing. Hands up if you do that, right? You just like reflect those beams right at him with a pot lid.
Has anybody seen those videos where people do it from like across the mountains?
Oh man.
Can anybody do that? I got a couple.
Yeah. There's some great things you can do in Breath of the Wild. There was GDQ was last week or so, and I'm just in awe every time I see these Breath of the Wild speedruns that go for 15 minutes because they get a tree and they hit it a bunch of times with stasis and then grab onto it and just fly across the map on the tree. And then they land in Hyrule Castle and beat up Ganon without doing any of the dungeons. And it's like, that is one way to do it, I guess.
I think most people spend the majority of that game. It took longer fighting the rain than it did to actually fight Ganon.
True.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also because the game
was more about the exploration than it was so much about just the boss battles. It was more about just making your way around. The boss battles were pretty easy, but like, you know, the Lionels or Octoroks were the things that got me.
Which is why it has some of the worst main boss themes in the series. The Blight music is so just unmemorable.
I can.
There was music.
Yeah, there was music during those. I remember Thunderblight Ganon was a nightmare, dude, when I played that blind. How many of you guys remember that guy? Oh, dude, he just rocked me.
That is one thing, though, I completely forgot about. Every single of the 4 Guardians in that game, or the 4 Divine Beasts in that game, they did something very unique with their music that not a lot of other Zelda games have done in the past, where it builds. Because while you're going through these Divine Beasts, you're trying to turn on all these terminals. And slowly, each time you would turn on one of these terminals, they would add an instrument to the music. Until right before you fight the Blights, you'd get this kind of semblance of a song.
And you saying that, I did not know they did that with the Divine Beast. They did that with Terrytown. Terrytown, for those who don't know, is a side quest where you go and help build a village. And you initially just send one carpenter out there, and then he says, oh, I need someone who can do this. And you end up bringing together a Rito and a Goron and so on to build this village. And every time you've added a different race or a different individual, they bring part of the theme from that region into the theme song. And so by the time you're done, you have a full orchestra essentially that's mixing together all these common themes.
So, Breath of the Wild's not the only one on this list. There are 2 good video games listed on this wall behind us.
Did anybody play these other 2 video games?
Triforce Heroes, though, yeah, there we go.
Who likes Triforce Heroes?
I liked that game. It was
so
good.
cute.
Well, look, as an Australian, it was region locked, and I couldn't play with any of my friends over here. So, but A Link Between Worlds, I think, it was more of a remixy kind of soundtrack, but I thought it had quite a good soundtrack.
Yeah, and they went back to what they kind of had done with Skyward Sword, and the Lorule Castle theme is the Hyrule Castle theme backwards. And you can see that just in this decade, they started to play with the music they had already written, maybe more than write new music. So you can see where, even going back a little further to like Twilight Princess and the Wind Waker, they were taking the Kakariko theme and slowing it down or speeding it up, and now they're flipping songs backwards just to see what they can do to, I guess maybe they're betting on how fast we'll all notice.
Well, that's really just what's so cool about Zelda just in general, is there's so much variety. So you get some games that are just ultra catchy. You get some where you take the game and you like modify the music. You either flip it backwards or you remix it somehow, like with Cadence of Hyrule. You have some games like Breath of the Wild where the music is just kind of in the background. It's just there. And you have other games where the music is very integral to the gameplay itself. So that's what's just really neat about Zelda, is there's just so many different types of gameplay as well as just different types of soundtracks for it.
Does anybody know what musical instrument Link gets in A Link Between Worlds? Anybody?
I don't remember.
You just get a bell.
A bell.
Oh yeah, that one.
Hey,
So-
Josh. I'm looking at the slide. I'm like, where's Hyrule Warriors?
That's not a Zelda game.
And where's Soul Calibur 2? And where's Super Smash Brothers?
Come on, Josh.
I think that's more of a question for Cody, who I think made these slides more
So
than...
do we want to talk about Hyrule Warriors?
I mean, I wasn't planning to. I like the game.
Let's ask how many hours you put into it.
Oh, I put in like 365 hours in that game.
Has anybody
in the Switch version?
100%ed Hyrule Warriors?
I've got a level 9.
Yeah, you're all smarter than us.
Rude.
I've put maybe 5 hours into Hyrule Warriors. That's about it.
Weak.
So no, Hyrule Warriors, like Cadence of Hyrule, even got to just give another team a chance to play with the soundtrack, and there's some original tracks in there as well, but I think they did a good job.
I like the soundtrack a lot.
And it's more of a return to the catchiness than Breath of the Wild for sure. But did you have something else you wanted to say about it, Alex?
Like, the music in Hyrule Warriors is very metally, or not metally, more like a rock and metal themed. It's like
metallic
music. Kinda. But it's really bopping. It's a really good music track. Like, it's not traditional, but it's still really nice.
I like it.
I did enjoy it.
So let's go ahead and we'll move on to our final trivia question. This one's a little bit harder. I've got another copy of Hero of Time, the Ocarina of Time album. This is Materia Collective was nice enough and found us a copy of the Kickstarter backer exclusive version. So there are not very many of these left in the wild. So who can name this tune?
Hold on.
You got it.
Hold on. You gotta say it to everyone in the mic. They can't hear you.
Faces of Evil from the CDI.
It's good enough.
How in the world did you know that? Are you kidding me? The entire theater was completely silent. Like, no one knew that.
Cody can correct me. I think this is the first time we've done the panel where someone knew the answer to that one.
Yeah, we actually had a backup slide question because half the time people just don't get it. But look, CDI is great. I have a lot of fun with the CDI games.
It has some top-notch writing and voice acting.
Yeah.
I think you played
very high quality. It's just a shame it's so hard to find now. It's like $1,000 to try and find a console. Zelda's Adventure, the worst of the 3 CDI games, is about $700 on its own for some reason as well. So, yeah, they're real collector's items, real classic Zelda games.
Has anybody played the CDI games?
Like,
we
where
got a
did
couple
you
of
even
CDI
play
fans
those?
over here.
Does anybody else here want to play them?
I want to
wanna
play
play
them.
it.
I
I wanna
really
try it.
want to.
Right? Blind Let's Play. Let's go.
So we've got a couple of minutes, so we'll go ahead and I don't have any more things to give away, so someone can call it out if you recognize it. But we'll go ahead and play the backup trivia. Anybody know it? Call it out. Anybody know it? It's time out.
Hold on. That person right over there.
Yeah, I see
Very
you.
good.
Yeah.
So, do you all like that song better than the CDI song? No?
No,
What can,
CDI has great sound.
what can a trash game like Breath of the Wild compare to the CDI games?
Peyton.
Well, do we have any closing comments? Do you all
Where
still
can we
like
find
Zelda
everybody
music?
on social media, as well as where can we find more Zelda Universe and all
Sure. So thanks for joining us today. Let's just go down the line again. Peyton.
You can find me on Twitter, Emperor Peyton. I also do Twitch streaming when I can at Emperor_P.
Yeah, again, my name's Abdallah. Great to see you guys. Thanks again for coming out, especially all of you guys that are first-time PAX South goers and all of you guys that are veterans. You guys are awesome. It's the first day of PAX, so let's get some hype for that. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming. You guys can type in Abdallah onto YouTube and you'll find me a whole bunch of Nintendo content. So again, thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Okay, I'm Amanda Van Hyle. You can find me on Twitter at Amanda Van Hyle. Van Hyle is spelled VANHIEL. I'm also on Twitch. I stream on the Zelda Universe TV channel, as well as on my own channel, which is Panda Princessa. You can also visit my website, amanda.vanhyle.com. I have like cosplay pictures as well as video clips of some of the shows I've been in, and my voiceover demos on there also. And those are the main places you can find me.
Y'all can find me on Twitter at Trainer Trevino. I also work on the YouTube channel for Zelda Universe. We're working on a Majora's Mask dub for April to celebrate the 20th anniversary. We're gonna have a really cool little project coming out with that, like voice acting, recovered music, and newly animated cutscenes. I'm excited for that. And I also work with Joe Zija, the voice of Claude from Fire Emblem Three Houses, and he has a channel on YouTube as well at Joe Zija.
Yeah, and just in general, if you're a Zelda fan, if you want to contribute to Zelda stuff, we are a Zelda volunteer fan website. We have people all over the world. This is actually, we've done this panel already at PAX Australia, and we do news, guides, YouTube videos. If you're interested in that kind of thing, let us know. I think we'll probably be hanging around outside afterwards. We won't stay in here so people can set up for the next panel, but if you're interested in chatting to us or complaining about our taste in music or wanting to volunteer with us, just feel free to chat to us.
Yeah, and like Cody said, we're ZeldaUniverse.net. Like news, features. We've got original articles covering music, fan art, your favorite characters, memories, every day of the week. We've been around for almost 20 years and are completely run by volunteers. And if you still like forums, we have forums. They're actually active. And a Discord and Twitch near every day of the week. We have different people. You can see a lot of us and some of us here in the front row on Twitch every week. And as for me, you can find me on Twitter at WatcherJoshua. And anything else?
Other than that, thanks for coming. We'll be hanging out on the outside of this area in case you want to take some selfies or just like Cody said.
Yes, please come say hello.
Yes,
we
say
love
hi to
meeting
us.
Zelda fans.
Yes, that's right. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.